Liverpool, Ken O'Brien of California Davis.
Obviously, the Jets know something that, the people up there don't.
Fullback, Roger Vick, Jeff Lageman.
Jets just don't understand the draft all back.
Blair Thomas, running back, Penn State. Johnny Mitchell. The New York Jets select tight end from Penn State, Kyle Brady. Vernon Golson.
Cleveland traded the 5th pick to the New York Jets. And with the 5th pick, the 2009 NFL Draft, New York Jets select Mark Sanchez.
D. Milner.
Smith. Jets select quarterback Christian Hackenberg.
Sam Darnold.
The New York Jets select Zach Wilson.
Future Pro Bowler, Elijah Moore.
Michael Carter, running back.
Oh, where the hell were we? Wow, okay, there we go. All right, I got nervous there for a second. I was looking at my own chair with nobody in it. I thought I didn't exist. I was like, holy shit, I disappeared. It's over. I did it. I died. Well, everybody, we are back. Welcome to the 10 o'clock mock, the post-actual draft edition. What a wacky place to be. We've been talking about all this stuff for so long, and now we are on the back end. Dom C in the house. How you doing? How you feeling? You hungover? What's the story?
You know what's funny, dude, is I'm not hungover, but I was deathly ill last night. I don't know if I ate something wrong or I thought I was getting a stomach bug. Been a little queasy today, but I'm pushed through it. Had too much going on and stuff like that. But yesterday I got home at about 3:30 from a bunch of stuff going on, and I'm like, ooh, I don't feel right, and ooh, Nelly, it was on. So I'm not hungover, but I'm here to talk about, what is it? 11 months and 3 weeks now. We get to talk about: is it going to be Arch Manning? Is it going to be Norris Sellers?
Right.
You know
how we do it.
Let's fight over tackle or tight end, for Christ's sakes.
That's right. Oh man, it's like, right, man. We can start that up as soon as we want to. We didn't do enough at wide receiver. So who's up? Who we looking at? You know what I mean? We could do that. Who's our quarterback? All that stuff. Well, guys, we are at Monday post draft. So we spent the whole weekend hanging out together. Dom C made an appearance with us at the Talking Jets live stream for the entire event. It was killer. It was amazing. You guys came in force out there in the chat. There were times we had 3,000 people in there, Dom. We had steady, 2,500, 2,300, 1,800. It was an amazing weekend. All 3 days. This was our 6th straight year doing this. And again, another incredible success as far as us making it through it all, hanging out with everybody, making lemonade out of lemons when we had to. But we had a good damn time. 3 full days. It started with the first round on one day, then we got the next 2 rounds on the next day, and then we did the rest, what we like to call day 3, and we had all kinds of fun names. So I want to thank everybody for hanging out with us. It was truly amazing, man, and I just love getting that opportunity, like such a long time. I mean, the day 3 was like just about an 8-hour stream, Dom.
Yeah,
8 hours.
Like a work day.
Yeah, and it feels like it too. At the end, you're completely spent. It's like you're completely wiped out, the emotions, the ups and downs. And I came into day 3, I'll tell you, Dom, with so much excitement. I thought the Jets had a very good days 1 and 2. Now, granted, and we'll talk in detail, but as an overarch, I didn't want a cornerback so early. But after talking to you and really spending some time looking, like, I think the first 3 picks ended up, they got me in a really good mood. And I showed up at day 3 like, okay,
rock,
my
right?
regime knows what they're doing. They're doing this the right way. And look, I view 4th round picks, especially early 4th round picks, that first 15 picks in the 4th round, I look at as one of the real sweet spots of the draft. It's like day 2, that first 15 picks of the 2nd round, I look at very much the same way. It's like who squeaks through, right? You got an opportunity to really get some gems. There are guys that just, they squeak through positional need and everything going on with each team. It doesn't mean that the guy sucks just because he's there in the 4th round. It just, he squeaked through. So I saw a lot of those guys that I really viewed as, just amazing opportunities. And we went for none of them. And we actually reached, in my opinion. So again, we'll talk about it. So it was a difficult day 3. I was way up here, Dom. Like I was way up here. And it's just, it takes its toll on you. So for everybody who made it through the whole thing, congratulations. Like, good on you. We did it. But, so it's like I say when we're watching these games sometimes if I wasn't live streaming, I'd turn this piece of shit off.
Oh, the Arizona game last year, remember?
Oh, brutal.
Right from I don't know why that one sticks out of my head. Like why am I even I'm wasting 3 hours of my life watching this nonsense.
Yeah. And then it's like, imagine, but so being on this end, you got that thing on, you're not just watching it. You got to talk and it's like, you don't realize how hard this is sometimes, it's like talking 3.5 hours with nothing. And it's not just nothing. I could talk about nothing for a long time. But what you are watching is sad, bad news over and over and over again. It's not an easy thing. So, but anyway, man, yeah, it was, I commend everybody who made it through it. We're diehards, as you know, and this is what we do. This is what we do. We dive into this stuff. So I'm going to throw a poll question. And I'm going to ask everybody this question, but Dom, I'm going to ask it to you. Overall feeling, and then from here, we'll go into details as we move through the evening here. But your overall feeling, did the Jets improve? And if they did, by how much? And if they didn't, just talk about that without going too into the details of the players yet. I want to do them individually.
Yeah. It looks to me like you got 2 plug-and-play starters, and you got a third who looks like he has a chance to start, and you got a 4th guy who will be a starter. Whether it's this year or next, he will be a starter. So if you can get out of here, I wanted to leave this draft with 3 guys that were going to be heavy in the rotation this year. If you get 3 guys that are, either starters or heavy in the rotation, in 3 years, I think you'll look back and say, pretty good job. And I think we got 2. You still don't know if these guys can play. That's still yet to be determined. But a couple days, couple hours after it's all said and done, it looks to me as if they got 2 starters and they got a guy that's gonna push for some starting time. And then it looks like they're turning the roster over at the bottom with Aaron Glenn's type of players, right? So without getting into the players itself, did they improve? If you got 2 starters out of it, you improved, but I think there was a lot of meat left on the bone.
A lot of meat left on the bone. So let's do this. Let's talk about the draft. I'll show you guys an image. I got this image from David Wyatt Hupton. I went to his page and he had a nice image. So I'm going to use that for tonight's purposes. So all credit to David Wyatt Hupton, a man I respect. He does a good job out there. Jets content. If you haven't checked him out, he has a newsletter and everything that goes out regularly. You can subscribe to. It's I think there's a free version and then there's a pay version of what he does. But great guy and does a real good job. So we started again, guys. We have pick number 7. And as you guys probably know, if you've been hanging out on this show for any length of time, we started with pick 7. You know that. We grabbed Armand Membu. So we talked about it. We talked about that one most. And like you said, we argued this year pretty much about tackle versus tight end. Last year it was tackle. I guess it was tight end last year too, because we had the Brock Bowers thing. But there was also wide receiver in last year. You know, a lot of folks wanted us to trade up. I don't think there was too much talk about trading up this year. Both guys were there. And what really interesting little wrinkle, Dom, the guy that we were a little worried might not be there ended up not even being the first guy selected at his position, Tyler Warren. So Colston Loveland leapfrogged him to be the first tight end taken. How'd you feel about that? What'd you think about that whole thing?
I listen. I don't think I was too far off in my personal feelings or my grades for sure between the two tight ends. They are apples and oranges. I had Tyler Warren as my 6th overall player. I had Colston Loveland as my 12th. So, in the same ballpark, in the same ballpark for sure. And looking at where he went and looking at, where Loveland went to Chicago, like, I get it. They have their version. They have their F already, their F tight end in the kid. Why can't I think of his name? Cole Kmet.
Cole Kmet, right?
Yeah. So, they have their inline guy who kind of, rumbles and stumbles and plays a little physical and does all that stuff. Loveland's not that, Loveland spent, and I'll give you the exact numbers because I have it here. He spent 44% of his play snaps, not even flexed out, GreenBean. He spent 44% of his play snaps as the boundary X last year.
Who did? Warren?
Loveland.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So he is much more, and he's much more polished. He's much more nuanced in his route running and his receiving, coming back from a labrum injury. I think, once that's fully healed and he's able to get back in the weight room and get some strength and put some size on, I think it'll benefit him. But when you look at that offense and how that offense is going to run with Ben Johnson, and you look at the pieces they already had there, like, I get it. That is a fit. He's not going to play in line, at all very much. That's what they have Cole Kmet to do, but he will be flexed out. He will isolate out on safeties where he's an absolute mismatch nightmare.
Right.
He will
route running,
they'll move him around and hope that they try to, teams will play some man and try to put a linebacker on him, and it's a mismatch nightmare. It's, Ben Johnson's going to zig when you think he's going to zag. And so I understand Loveland fit in that offense. I don't think it's outlandish that he were to go to that team before Tyler Warren was drafted. So, maybe I'm a little bit more impartial to who was number 1 and number 2. I think that they were both the top tier, however you want.
Right. Yeah, and because at that point it just becomes personal preference, scheme fit, that kind of thing. It's like, all right, this guy we just think is going to work a little bit better in our scheme than the other guy. That's where you kind of fall with that kind of stuff, and you see it. Like, even look in 2022. We saw Stingley go before Sauce, right? Both guys highly regarded. One, you're looking at a guy. Same thing with London and Garrett Wilson. It happens. And then we saw, who was the guy, the first defensive end taken in that draft again?
Walker, Trayvon Walker.
Right, Trayvon Walker. And then you got Aiden Hutchinson, and right. It's just like, because at that point in the draft, you got your pick. So you're like, all right, well, I like this guy in my scheme a little bit more than that guy. But it was interesting to see Loveland go before Tyler Warren. I think that surprised most, no matter how you slice it.
Yeah.
But very interesting. So the Jets obviously had pick 42 coming up next, and we chose Mason Taylor. So we went tackle and
very chalky. I mean, you could have read, and again, mock drafts are just exercise, whether we do them or anybody else on the interweb does them, right? You could have read 100 mock drafts, and I'd say 90% of the ones that had Armand Membo going in the first round had Mason Taylor going in second.
Yeah.
Well,
it's right. And that's the thing. Like, if we went tight end, but I'll tell you what was really good about that first pick. Now, and you guys know, we talked about it just till you just couldn't talk about it anymore. our preference, right? So we talked about Membu versus Warren and what all that stuff. Now, I was leaning tight end. Totally happy with the Membu pick. I said as much. If that's what they do, I get it and I respect it and I applaud it, right? I like the, the disregarding, the overcoming of the urge to go for shiny things and just get the job done, right? We got one piece missing on the most important unit on the offense, and we're just going to finish it. You know what I mean? Like that kind of a thing. Foundation. I like it. And it turned out to be a very smart move to do it that way. And this is why we do these mocks, right? To change it up and see how the draft falls, to see what happens. You think you want to go this way, but look, every time you do that, the second and third round are very unattractive now to you. So that kind of thing, it seemed like the Jets really made the right move, Dom, because there was a bit more of a run on offensive tackles than maybe we thought what happened in the first round. And even guys that we saw as second, some instances,
third rounders
were going in that first round. So when we arrived at pick 42, the tackle class, Ursary was still there. But if I'm being frank, not the guy I would have wanted to go into this season needing to start, right? As quite as much as like a Membu or some of the others, right? So that was a very wise move. And then you got the tight end done. The tight ends, when we arrived in the second round, only 2 had gone. Yeah. So, it was a totally different thing. So they played that smart. We followed that with that pick 73 with Azareye'h Thomas, a cornerback who Dom C loves. I can't wait to hear you talk a little bit more about him.
Yeah. Azareye'h.
I like to say Azareye'h.
I know everybody does, but it's Azareye'h, and he prefers, because I guess AZ, exactly. Not prefers, but just like me, a lot of people can never say my name right.
Domenico.
Because my legal name is Domenico. Yeah, but everyone always says Domenico. I just say, call me Dom.
Yeah, Dom.
Call me Dom.
Right.
Yeah, that's it.
So we'll call him AZ moving forward, I'm sure. Yeah. And hopefully we have to call we have to refer to him a lot because he's starting. That's what we want to see, right? Not that we want to hear his name a lot because we don't want us fucking burned again, that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But we followed that with day 3. Here we come. Aryan Smith was kind of the question mark of the night, but what we did, look, we wanted a wide receiver. We got a wide receiver at 110. We followed that pick 130 with a safety. Look, we wanted a safety. We got a safety. Malachi Moore. I wish we didn't have to trade up to get him, but we did. And here he comes, running over to One Jets Drive to hang out with us. Francisco Mauigoa.
Noah.
Goa.
Noah.
I don't believe
Maya
I'm not
Noah.
buying that bullshit. There's a G. I'm looking right at it, buddy. You're crazy, Dom C.
Noah.
Maui Noah.
Maya Noah.
This is going to take a minute. All right.
Yeah. Fashanu. Maya
Noah. Exactly. Right. Yeah. It's funny. 176. We wrapped up the day, which kind of sucked. We traded away our 6th, and here we go. And we didn't get to have, a little fun going as deep into the draft as we'd hoped. We were already upset we had no 7th, right? Now, we got no 6th because we went with Edge Tyler Barron with our last pick from Miami. So, hey, there you go. That's our picks. We thought we had 8. We ended up having 7. So not too bad of a day. We actually used some capital from next year to get back into the, to do some work in this year's draft. So we did keep that 7th pick, which is nice. And I'll get to this super chat, Dom, and then we're going to start breaking down some of these guys. I want to hear the Dom C, explanation of the whys and what the good and the bad. Okay.
You got it.
So Sodak's checking in. Thank you, buddy. He says, I'm not trying to be a downer, but some questionable AG decisions. I really like how we're not giving Mooj. It's all AG, right? We're all doing that. We're like AG. Mooj, he's just window dressing. But draft, free agent signings, and bringing on some questionable coaches. With that said, go Jets. Now, Sodak, I'll tell you, this is one of those areas where or let me say these phases, this place in time where we don't know much about what they can and can't do, right? We learned a lot about them in the draft, but again, it takes a long time to learn now how well. Like, look, one thing we learned about them is they're not looking at the same draft boards as other people, right? The more out front. That much we can pretty much confirm. They got their own board, Dom, right? Clearly, they're not just taking the guys that everybody knows and all that stuff. So we know that, but it's going to take a couple of years before we know really what this looks like, and that's the way it goes. It takes 2 or 3 years to really know how well a draft class is going to go, unless we cut everybody, in which case it's a flop. But yeah, I mean, look, the free agent signings, the coaches, this is the place, the little moment in time that you just we're going to have to trust that he does know what he's doing, right? That they know what they're doing, that we wanted to get guys in here that he feels he can coach, right? That's what we're doing.
His type of guy.
And if they can, Dom, that's our real X factor. We don't know some of these guys. So, I mean, that goes from the coaches. I mean, the coaches and some of the players, we don't know them. So we're in that place in time where we just got to suspend some opinion. We got to give them that moment to actually breathe. We got to not throw water bottles at them game one. We got to give them a little chance here to get things in place and actually see what they can do. You know what I'm saying, Sodak? So, and any thoughts about that, Dom? He's not trying to be a downer, but
no. Listen, again, not defending, not trying to be like the Jet defender here, but it's a first draft, and through history, I mean, you go back and you look at some of these first drafts. I mean, in hindsight, Joe Douglas's was god awful. I mean, Mike Max, all of his drafts were god awful. Idzik, forget about it. So that's just the Jets. But even guys that aren't with the Jets, right? Some of the better drafters now, some of the better front offices. I mean, you talk about Philadelphia as the benchmark, right? Remember, that's Howie Roseman is the guy who passed up Justin Jefferson to take Jalen Reagor. He's the guy who traded up and traded high future capital to go up and get Andre Dillard, who never made it. So there's the draft is nothing but a crapshoot. Okay. I think day one and two, I think, Armand Membu was a very smart and safe pick, as do I think Mason Taylor was, and I was on board GreenBean, I would have preferred Tyler Warren and the tackle, or Tyler Warren and something and wait for a tackle. But like you said, you couldn't wait very long. If you didn't take a tackle in the second round, you're pretty much screwed, because even the guys, tackles went, but the offensive lineman went really, really early. Trapillo was a second rounder. Anthony Belton was a second rounder. Ursu was a late second rounder. So you would have missed the boat there if you didn't take one of those guys in round two. So, again, hindsight being what it is, I think the decision was probably best made to go safe and take Armand Membu. Listen, the guy's really, really good. Was he my first tackle off the board? No, he wasn't. On the board, I should say. No, he wasn't. But it doesn't mean that I didn't like him. He was still my 19th overall player. I wasn't, head over heels in love with this tackle class as a whole, especially comparative to last year. I'm not trying to do that, but this class wasn't the greatest at the offensive tackle position, but you arguably got the best one. Got the best one. Maybe Will Campbell will say something about that. Again, I think ultimately Will Campbell will move inside at some point, but he's given the opportunity to start over there in New England on the left side, see what happens. But the Armand Membu play was safe. 20 years old, still hasn't developed into his body, which is 336 pounds of sheer, piss and vinegar. He's a shit kicker. He's a finisher. He's a mauler. You like all that stuff. He moves so freaking well. You like that as well. So, if you're going to go safe, take it in the trenches. Take the safe pick in the trenches, man, because you're probably never going to go wrong. The bust rate is pretty. I'd say like the floor is very, very high on a guy like Armand Membo, and the ceiling's even higher. So I'm fine with Membo. And then you go into round 2 with Mason Taylor. I get it. Again, it's a pick that I think was very, very safe. And just like the tackles, look what happens if we had waited on a tight end, right? Fergie went in the second round. Arroyo went in the second round. All these guys.
Ferguson went early for that was good. It was good to see. But yeah, earlier than a lot of people were thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what shows you too. Like, look, man, talk about it, whatever. But people have their boards. They've done their homework. They come up with conclusions that might not be what other guys are, the same conclusions that you're drawing. Who's right? Who's wrong? Also, it's not always as simple as on draft day. It's once they get it, who's right for this system, right? That guy might be a better player, but he ain't going to work here in the same way that he will somewhere.
Just like the Loveland Warren discussion that we had before.
Right?
Loveland was the better fit for their scheme. Now listen, Mason Taylor again, 20 years old, again, not even fully developed. He's got some, he's got some more developing to do. He needs to really work on becoming a better blocker in a phone booth at the point of attack, if he's going to, stay in line. And listen, the Jets are a perfect situation for that because what do we have? 6 former tight end coaches and our tight end coach on the coaching staff.
Yeah.
So what better team to fall in if you need to improve as an inline blocker a little bit?
Yeah.
And again,
right.
I don't think he's a bad blocker. I think he does a lot of things really well as a blocker, as a matter of fact. When you pull him on those powers and those stuff where he's asked to kick out as an H-back coming across the formation and just blasting defensive ends, reaching to the second level, all that stuff he does really good. He's just not, I think he needs a little bit more. He needs to, hone in his technique a little bit and probably get a little bit stronger to really be able to handle, the Greg Rousseau's and the all those big defensive ends. If he's going to be able to handle them one-on-one, he's going to need to get better at that. But the upside and what he can offer as a receiving threat is really good. He moves very well. Catches, very good hands. Has the contested stuff. Can strength through the catch. Powers through the ball. Like he's not a yak guy. You'd like to see him break a little bit more tackles or have a little bit more, jitterbug in him. He's more of a smooth mover than he is a twitchy one. But he resembles, again, lazy comp because it's the Lions, but he resembles a lot of Sam Laporta for me. So if you can get a poor man Sam Laporta and kind of groom him into what you want, like there's a lot of upside there. I know some people won't say they think there's a lot of upside in Mason Taylor.
I think there's tons.
Yeah. You were very high on him, and I wasn't. I'm not saying he was my third tight end overall in the class, but I think that the tier between the two tight end, the Lovelands and Warrens, was significantly bigger. From 1 and 2 to 3 was a big gap.
Yeah.
So.
I had him as 3 as well.
Yeah.
But I think I had him a little bit closer. Like you said, like I was he was really the first tight end that I fell for. Even before Tyler Warren and Loveland and some of the others. Mason Taylor stood out to me right away. And interestingly enough, I didn't even connect that he was Jason Taylor's kid for a little while. Like I actually liked the player, just in and of himself. Then, getting into I've made that argument about pedigree, when you get into guys, especially 20-year-olds that, are so young and they're already showing so much potential, but, they do have X, Y, and Z to work on to really develop into a player that's going to be consistent and an impact player for you. Then you start looking at character traits. Is he somebody that is studious? Does he take that stuff seriously? Is he first in, last out group, part of those guys? and all that sort of stuff. And that's when you get into, looking at who they are, and then coming from being, the seed of a guy like Jason Taylor, who was, that was his whole thing. He was, was the hardest worker on the field. That's what it was. He was just relentless, and his routine was among the elites, so that's ingrained in him. So that's one of the things that I liked. I want to just talk real quick about JJ Hamza. He says, rookie coaches and GMs make my teeth itch. I'm telling you, that's the thing, guys. And I said this quite a few times, even through my own aggravation. I love the draft streams, Dom, because it really makes you show your ass. Like, I can now be judged forever on my initial reaction. And people remind me of stuff all the time. You didn't like this player when we drafted him. If I'm like, yeah, they're like, you're not allowed to root for him, and you didn't like him, that kind of thing. But it's like, my initial reaction is my initial reaction. Boo, yay, whatever it might be. But it's like, you can alter those opinions as you go. Even sometimes 2 minutes later, I feel slightly differently than I did, because I was expecting, what do they say, Dom? Expectations are just,
resentments waiting for happen.
Yeah, resentments waiting to happen. That's all it is, an expectation. So I'm looking at, Jalen Royals, and they say Azareye'h Smith or whatever, Aryan Smith. Yeah. And I'm like, boo, like, it doesn't matter. My expectation is there. But anyway, it's like, this is the thing that we have to remember. We made this choice. It doesn't matter right or wrong. We made the choice to do it again. We have a defensive rookie head coach coupled with a rookie GM. What comes with rookies? Mistakes, learning on the job. We're going to have to watch it. It is my belief that these guys might just need to learn a little bit about how to manage the full draft. It's not an easy thing. It's nuanced.
That's what, and we're going to get into that too, as we get into day 3.
That's where it was really glaring. So, let me just end this poll, see what everybody's thinking about, and then we'll move into. I want to get into pick 73.
Yeah,
and guys, I want you to open your ears when Dom talks about pick 73, because it's important. I'm going to end the poll. Let's see how everybody's feeling here, Dom. See. All right. The question was, how much? I got some typos there. Hopefully it didn't bother too many people. How much did the Jets improve this weekend? A fair amount is leaps and bounds the winner with 74%. So pretty a fair amount. Okay, we did. We improved a little bit. Very, very little came in next with 15%. Only 5% feel that it was a slam dunk draft and that we improved immensely. And but good news is only 3% said not at all, completely busted draft. So I think most people feel like maybe not what we'd hoped, but I see some improvement in there. We definitely improved the team. Maybe not as much as I wanted, but pretty good. So that's nice, I think, overall. But thanks for voting, everybody. We had 100 votes. Not bad, not bad. Much better than our last couple mocks.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that. So pick 73. Let me see. I'm going to take another shot here. Azareye'h. How'd I do?
Azareye'h.
Azareye'h. All right. AZ Thomas.
AZ Thomas.
The cornerback from Florida State, Dom C.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about this guy, if you would. Everybody, open your ear holes. If for any moment of this stream, this is the one. Dom C has some really good, really deep thoughts about this guy.
Yeah. So when you think about what Aaron Glenn is as a coach, when you think about Steve Wilkes, his defensive coordinator, what he is as a coach, there are certain types, right? You think back, GreenBean, to Bill Parcells. And you think about Bill Parcells' defense. What were some mainstays? Like, talk to me about the defensive line. You knew that they were all big and nasty and physical, and outside of the Lawrence Taylor, who might have been a freak, like he didn't have a lot of those little, really light in the ass, kind of skinny, twitchy guys who are going to bend around you. He got he had those beasts that just like with those Hulk hands that just went through you and stuff like that, right? Every coach kind of develops a type. And when you think about Glenn, you think about Steve Wilkes, their defensive backs are a type, right? They're a type. Their safeties are all very cerebral. They're very versatile. He needs the safeties to really be the quarterbacks of the defense because they do so much. They play so much false defense. Like they'll show one look and really jump into another, depending on what the offense does. This, that, and the other thing. There's a lot of blitzes and zone dogs and stuff like that. Well, he'll bring 3 guys from one side, including defensive backs. So the safeties have to really be in tune with what's going on. So the safeties in those defenses are really, really smart football players, really, really good at turning the ball over, and aren't going to get toasted and beat all that much. They're smart enough to play with the ball in front of them. Now their corners in both of these, guys, scheme after team after team, scheme after scheme, they like to play man coverage. They like to play physical press man coverage on the outside with man coverage across, usually one deep, because that gives him the flexibility to blitz their linebackers, to bring their nickel back, to bring a lightning blitz where a safety and a linebacker, or a cornerback and a linebacker come off the same side. So to do that, you need to be able to trust that you're going to be able to play some man coverage in this, straight across. Outside of arguably Trey Amos, maybe Benjamin Morrison, maybe Noel Williams, I don't think that there is a better scheme fit for what Aaron Glenn and Steve Wilkes want to do on their defense than Azareye'h Thomas. He is the prototypical cornerback for this defense. Long, strong, solid, almost 6'2", 200 pounds, right? He has a really great frame, long arms, another thing. Another thing that shows the length makes him a problem at the catch point. He's always punching through the hands, can get up and get to some of those balls that, somebody who might be a little bit, less in arm length or in size won't be able to get. He can move, right? And I know everyone's going to harp. Oh, he ran a 4.5. He sure did. He ran a 4.5 40. The straight line speed and running a 40-yard dash is not what makes a cornerback special.
Didn't he have a comment about that too?
I don't know.
Is that him? He said, "Yeah, great. I don't run great in shorts," or something like that. Something along those lines. Was that him?
Yeah, that was. I texted you to it. Yeah, no, that's what Aaron Glenn said. Aaron Glenn said, "Great." He said, frankly, he's like, I'm worried about their body of work. I could care less what they're doing, in gym shorts or in underwear running around.
Yeah. That's such a great comment from our coach, by the way.
Yeah. But Azareye'h Thomas, former wide receiver, so his hands are good, right? He's got really good ball skills. Balls in the balls in the air. He's able to get to it all the time. Technically, he's sound. He's physical. He understands how to use the boundary as a weapon, right? He'll jam you and he'll jab you and use the boundary to his favor. You watch his footwork; it's so clean. He doesn't bite for those tricky release packages and something like that. He plays with a mentality that's like the kind of guy that you want. On top of it, you talk about character, right? This guy is two-year captain at his school, always revered by all of his coaches and all of his teammates as super high character, supported his family, did all that stuff. Like, this is the kind of guy that you want on your team. Yes, it will 4.5 hurt some of the makeup speed. Like, he doesn't have the he didn't run 4.38 like Darrelle Revis. He didn't run 4.4 like who was opposite Darrell Revis? Oh my God, Antonio Cromartie.
Yeah, I was going to say,
You know what I
which
mean?
time. Okay, Crow, yeah.
But he plays that type of defense as well, right? He's physical. He'll get in there. He's not afraid to get his nose, put his nose in there, stick his nose in there, and tackle. Is he the greatest tackler? Is he? He's not Brian Urlacher tackling you, but he's not afraid to do it. He's not a dive bomber. He's just a really technically advanced, technically sound press man cornerback. When you talk about scheme fits, there's probably no better scheme fit for this team than him.
So where are we playing him, Dom? Before you get to that point, where are we playing this guy?
He's a boundary cornerback. Okay, he's an outside cornerback. Now I know you can make that argument, GreenBean or chat, whoever what you want. We just paid Brandon Stevens, whatever, $11 million a year, so on and so forth. We absolutely did. Brandon Stevens is 27 years old. His contract is basically 2 years. To me, this is something that we talked about all through the mock draft season on 10 o'clock mocks here is let's get to a point where why can't we be the team that's always has that next guy who can step up and step in and be ready to play? First off, the third cornerback is going to play a lot. Now, I'm assuming, this is strictly assumption right now, I'm assuming that your starters right now are Brandon Stevens and Sauce Gardner on the outside. The third cornerback's going to play a lot, right? There always is. He can, he can get up there and you can put him in certain situations and have multiple cornerbacks on the field along. You can there's he'll play in sub packages and nickels and dimes and stuff like that when you have multiple cornerbacks on the field. I don't think it's far-fetched that eventually that he could push Brandon Stevens for the starting job. Again, not a knock on Brandon Stevens, more so paying homage to what I think is a really good football player in Azareye'h Thomas, right?
Nice.
I think he's a really, really perfect fit to me. The scheme and the player and the value was hit it out of its park. However, you have that conundrum that everyone's going to say it, everyone's going to think it, is that, we drafted a backup. Well, you know what? You to go into a draft and try to find 7 starters isn't really, it isn't really realistic. First off, if you're in the need of 7 starters, your team's in bad shape anyway.
Yeah, right. We got problems.
You're in bad shape. But sometimes I think the value of a player, no matter what the position, really has to win out. And from what I understand, at least for rounds 1, 2, and 3, they stayed completely true to their board. And, I shared with you earlier today, I got a little tidbit from somebody I know, somebody that I trust very much, is that the Jets' 3rd round board had 2 names at the top on their own tier, well ahead of anybody else. That was Kyle Williams, and that was Azareye'h Thomas. They were banking and hoping that Kyle Williams fell. He would have been the pick, and then they would have done everything in their power to trade back up to get Azareye'h Thomas. Kyle Williams went off the board, and they stuck true to their board.
Where was Kyle? He was taken like a couple picks before us, right?
3 picks before us. Yeah.
3 picks before us.
Yeah.
Look at that. So now let me ask you guys, would you feel better about this draft if it was Armand Membu, Mason Taylor, Kyle Williams, and then AZ Thomas? If we traded
if you were able to get back in and trade up for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, how would we be feeling? We'd be feeling pretty damn good, because then everything after that really is gravy. When you get into the 5th and the 6th, you know what I mean? We were hoping for some defensive fat assery. We didn't get that like we wanted. But yeah, I mean, just that alone, right? Where everybody would be like, wow. And that was where they were going. You can't control the entirety of you can't control 31 other teams. Sad. I know.
Yeah. So they pivoted and they stuck to their board. And that's why I have no problem. AZ Thomas is probably my favorite pick in the entire draft. Hands down. He was my highest rated player out of all the Jets that we drafted. Probably for me, the best value and the best fit. even if he doesn't, if he doesn't see the field as a starter to start the year. That for me, I think
he'll be Brandon Eccles for a little while, which we were all upset that we lost Brandon Eccles. And look, we have no real illusions on whether or not he was starting. We just didn't want to lose him. So now you got AZ Thomas.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I like it.
Yeah. And then you go into round 4, and I think that's
hold on. Before you do that, I want to just get to Danger Zone real quick. He said, I'm going to throw this right to you, Dom. If we played a game today, who do you want on the New York Jets? Like from the rest of the team, as we look right now, who would you rather see start? Mason Taylor or Tyler Conklin?
I mean, listen, we saw a couple years of Tyler Conklin, right? Nice player. I like him. I'm sure Tyler Conklin right today on April, whatever this is, 28th, is probably more NFL game ready than Mason Taylor. But I'll still take Mason Taylor because it's an upside thing, right?
Yeah,
right. You get a 20-year-old over a 30-year-old who has a very, very limited ceiling. I'll take Mason Taylor. I'd like them both. How about that? Danger Zone?
Yeah, why can't we have them both, Dano? So, but I'm with you though. I'll honestly say, I like Conklin. I like him. I don't have, it's not like nothing negative about him. But if I'm answering that question, I want to see Mason Taylor. Get him on out there.
Yeah.
All right, Dom, move into the 4th round. Now, this was pick 110, our first pick of day 3. We were excited. I was yelling. I was like, yeah, here we go, baby. And then they said, Arian Smith. Yeah. I was like, okay, well, I didn't have him anywhere near this. He just wasn't a guy that I thought we could hear. I had 60 names I could have heard in my mind. This was not one of them. And
it wasn't one of them for anybody, GreenBean.
Right.
To me, it's a head scratcher. All right. Obviously, if they were as high on Kyle Williams as is being reported, all right, Arian Smith is nothing like Kyle Williams except for the fact that they both take the top off of the defense speed, right? To me, Kyle Williams is 10 times the player that Arian Smith was. This was a head scratcher. Now, I do understand that they brought Arian Smith in for a 30 visit, and supposedly it was a home run. They meshed well, hit it out of the park. They liked what he could do. They liked what they saw in him. They liked the person that they thought the player he could become in a couple years. But man, you talk about reach of all reaches. Not only on, Arian Smith is probably, I'll tell you exactly right now, 6th or 7th round pick I had him at, Arian Smith. Yeah. Let's see.
I think that's the problem with it. If you come up with the name Arian Smith at pick 162, 176, you're like, okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I had a 7th round grade on Arian Smith. So the 4th round is just crazy reach for me. We all know about the warts that he had, the drop problems, the checkered injury past, the real lack of production. And some of it can be, kind of handed off on Carson Beck really having a really bad season last year. And some of it could be that, Arian Smith is just a one-trick pony. He won't be the first wide receiver if he doesn't work out. Again, assumption. He won't be the first wide receiver to come in here with grandiose grandiose dreams to really not live up to the bill, right? It's the first head scratcher that I had, especially if you wanted a wide receiver. If that was the goal, I just think that there was so many other guys still on the Jalen Royals was still on the board. Oh. I mean, there was a ton of other guys left on the board that I think I could have gotten, behind or at least talk myself into it. I just not able to do it with Arian Smith yet. And I hope I'm wrong.
2 years filled with injuries.
Correct.
just drop. It drops are. It's not just like, oh, he had a little spell of drop. Drops are part of the deal with him. And wasn't there some behavioral stuff too? Is there some?
I can't. I don't know.
Okay, I thought I saw something. I'm a little bit less confident in that side. But give me the ups and the downs of this guy real quick.
Oh man, I mean, you talk about the ups. You talk about, you have legitimate tracks. A legitimate track star. He was a 4-star recruit. Was a record setter in the 100-yard dash. Coming out of high school, ran track a little bit as a freshman. Again, speed is the calling card that he has. He can legitimately stretch the field. Now, that's going to be nice at some point, to keep some safeties honest and to keep them keep them out of the box and out of the middle of the field. I think he does a good job with his release package as well. He can get off press man coverage. Even though he's a little bit slender at 184 pounds, just over 6 feet tall. I think he does a good job. He doesn't get jammed up too much. He can get off tough press coverage. He's kind of, not only is he top speed fast, but he's very quick as well. So he's got that going to it. And then he gives you the opportunity to play a lot of those gadgety kind of plays where those little smoke screens get the ball in his hand real fast and let him go. I mean,
let him jitterbug down the field. Yeah.
When you think about the NFL over the past couple years, and you think about some of those guys who are just like true deep threats, right? You talk about the guys. New Orleans had a bunch of them. You think about those guys where you're looking their stat lines after the game, and you're like, 3 catches for 92 yards and a touchdown. Right. I think that's the kind of receiver that you're talking to Arian Smith. Now, for me, great. He's got he's got legitimate 4.3 speed. He can, he might be able to help you as a returner, as a kick returner, and stuff like that. He might be able to help you as a gunner and stuff like that. But, the hands. I mean, part of being a good wide receiver is being able to
18% drop rate.
Yeah. Part of being a wide receiver is being able to catch the ball, right? I don't trust that he's got the best ball skills. Like I said, he's not your contested catch kind of guy. He's your, hey, I got 3 steps on my guy, throw it deep. He's the guy who's running the 9 route, raising his hand, right? He's got that kind of speed. And for me, I'm not saying that doesn't have value, but you can find a track star in round 6 or 7, right? You might have been able to get Arian Smith in round 5, 6, or 7.
Right. Well, that's the problem. Yeah. It's like, when you talk about the management of the full draft, like, yes, we know, look, you could love them all you want. Nobody's going to shit on you for that. Like, it doesn't, I see the problems, but we love them. Okay. Yeah. Now you've established and professed your love for him. Where do you need to make the move?
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like, it's like, even if you reach with your second, 5th, still a reach, but okay, more palatable. Yeah. Like, you can get Arian Smith and, I forget all the guys that were there, but there were plenty. We were looking, I forget who I was yelling, but Jalen Royals was the wide receiver. I forget the defensive tackle that was there. There was a safety there I really liked. I just forget.
Who was the defensive tackle that was there? Because that's who I was screaming for. Oh my god! Hang on.
Yeah,
it was Ty Robinson. That's who it was. It was Ty Robinson. It was Ty Robinson from Nebraska. Absolutely, he went a couple picks after Arian Smith in round 4. And man, you talk about. He went
right after us. Yeah, Danny Stutzman was there. CJ West.
Yeah. All these guys, like you said, GreenBean. All right, it's a day 3 pick. It's round 4. So it's not the be all end all. But when you're at the top of round 4, you're getting all the filler, all the stuff that bled out of days 1 and 2, and that's exactly what you had there in CJ West, in Ty Robinson, in Danny Stutzman, in Jalen Royals. Like, to me, I just can't justify Arian Smith being better than any of those guys, right?
Yep.
You know, they had a reason to take him. I don't know what it is other than the fact that they said that they wanted to get fast, right? To me, this was like, even the rest of the picks, as we'll talk about them, you know, I can swallow. This one is a tough pill to swallow for me.
It really is, because it's such a reach. It's not a reach like a half round. You know, we talk about in the first round, you're like, well, it's pick 7. No, pick 21. You know what I mean? Like, we're talking about 2, maybe even 3 rounds of a reach. And that's the big problem with it. I saw a quick question on this. Who was shit? Yeah, Dante Thornton. Somebody, I forget who it was. Forgive me. Somebody asked, is he anything like that fast wide receiver the Texans got a couple years ago? Another guy you loved. Anything like Tank Dell?
No, nothing like Tank Dell. Tank Dell was...
Sorry, I lost your comment.
Tank Dell was the complete opposite. Tank Dell was that
quick,
quick, short area, you know.
Oh, KC took. I'm sorry. I was thinking Tank Dell.
Oh, Worthy?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm sorry
Worthy?
about that. Glad I saw the comment.
No, Worthy's much more of a reliable receiver than Arian Smith is. You know who Arian Smith is? GreenBean, the historian. Who's the wide receiver that we took way back when out of Ohio State in the second round, couple 10 years ago?
Oh, Devin Smith?
Devin Smith.
Yeah.
Devin Smith is much more like Arian Smith.
He was Ohio State.
Yeah. You know, where he was one note, right? Go fast and go deep. The Giants took a kid out of Tennessee a couple years ago. Christ, I can't remember his name either.
Yeah, I forget.
Anyhow, they took another, super speedster that, he was the guy who caught that ball in the preseason game and everyone was like, oh, he cooked sauce. He was out of bounds, Johnny Lamb Jones, another one. Yeah.
There it is. Johnny
Lamb
Lamb Jones.
Thank you, Dylan. Yeah.
Who was it?
Jalen Hyatt, the guy from the Giants.
Hyatt.
Yeah.
Right.
Super speed. And what has he done in the pros? Nothing. He runs off those safeties really well, but doesn't really do anything. To me, this is what Arian Smith feels like here. And I'm not saying that you don't need that every so often. You need somebody to really take the top off, really stretch the defense, keep the safeties honest, but not at the top of the 4th round when you're bleeding out. Got good guys that should have went rounds 2 or 3. That's my biggest gripe. And that's actually my second biggest gripe with this draft class. The first is that they left arguably the deepest class deepest defensive tackle class and the deepest running back class that we've seen in modern history without a defensive tackle or running back. I just don't know if it feels like they lost the board on day 3.
Yep, because really up to that point, I was excited. I'm like, okay, maybe that's the thing. They don't always have to be your guys, right? And they have to go perfect, but you can see it. Yeah. You're like, okay, I get this is smart. Even if it's where I disagree with it, you can still find it. This pick and then day 3, it just kind of the wheels fell off a little bit. I want to thank E-Boogie for dropping 5 new Streambeaner memberships into the pool here. Let me see who the lucky recipients are. We got Jake. Nope. Jake already has his. Let me see where it is. Shit. Hold on, E-Boogie. You're the man. Thank you, E-Boogie. So Dylan Terriman gets one. Hey, Dylan. Good to see you, buddy. Sharon McLean gets one. The Meadowland Swamp Thing gets one. Pete DeTraglia gets one. And Alex Acanillo, he gets one as well. Congrats to all you guys. And thank you, E-Boogie. One of my staunchest supporters and a man that I appreciate very, very much. I get to hang out with him on most Wednesdays and all that. So thank you so much. And then we have a question here from Wild Wave using one of his Streambeaner membership super chats. He says, Thomas really intrigues me because with Sauce's contract coming up, not sure if the new regime wants to pay him $30 million a year. I think Muji and Glenn did fine. Is that it? Just real quickly? Could
No.
that be something? He'll be here for a year by the time. I mean, there's the idea that maybe they extend Sauce right away, like soon. But any comment, any thought to like maybe?
I mean, I guess you never say never. But if I had money in my pocket right now, I'd lay it all on the side that Sauce is here long term. Again, we talked about fits and stuff like that for this scheme and this defense, and Sauce is exactly that. So,
Yeah. I wouldn't say that easier. I mean, look, it's nice. Look, if you're gonna think about that, it's nice to have options, right? And getting a guy in house, like we talked about, like Don brought it up a few minutes ago. Having your pipeline guys in house, because you're going to have to make those tough decisions. You cannot extend everybody, right? We all know this. Having guys developing on your team before these holes come to pass is the way to do it. At least that guy is here. And, that's what we did with Sherwood when CJ Mosley fell apart. Look what we got. We got the heir apparent in house. That's what we want to see more of. Offensive line, linebackers, defensive line, cornerbacks, you want to be ready so you have the choice, to make. And look, Dom, real quick here, Sam Aiken checking in. Thank you, Sam. He says, and I always say this one wrong.
Ayo Minor.
That's what it is. Ayo Minor was still on the board. Why take Aryan No Hand Smith, Dom? What's going on? So, but I think Dom basically carved it all out for you, Sam. But you were in agreement, right?
Yeah. And I'll speak to Ayo Minor, a little bit. Like you talk about like elite speed, elite traits. I don't know if Aariah Minor has that. He's more of a boundary guy. He's more of your big physical super strong hands. Phenomenal, really, really good run blocker. But the Jets got 3 guys like that already on the roster in Reynolds and in Alan Lazard, in Tyler Johnson. I know we all love to kind of pair up a big bodied X receiver to Garrett Wilson for this draft. I thought it was going to be different. And then maybe next year or in free agency, when free agency happens again, you can go and, replenish that type of guy. But for this year, like you weren't going to add another Aariah Minor. You were going to add somebody that I thought was going to be more of a slot weapon, and they decided to go to the other guy, where you could put him in the slot and he can run those slot fades and take the top off the defense, kind of speedster.
Yeah.
So that's
I was saying it all like the last few weeks, at least, maybe month. I was saying to you guys, I have no real foundation for this, but I got a sneaking suspicion that they're going to want to go that speedy, shifty, maybe a little bit smaller. I was thinking maybe the 5'10", 5'11". Arian Smith is actually a clean 6 feet or 6 foot tall. But still in that vein, I just had that. I mean, it looked like it to me. I feel like, we really don't have that guy on the roster. You could say, look, Gibson, right? He's been here pushing people off the roster for the last 2 years as the only one with that type of a skill set, with that, that quick, twitchy, speedy kind of guy. But I'm hoping maybe that's what his job is. Get Gibson off the team. Maybe that's all it is. But I don't know. If somebody said, what about returning kicks? I'm like, I don't know. With an 18% drop rate, I don't know if that's the guy I want to fucking have a heart attack every time the ball gets punted. I'm going to freak out.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it's an interesting one. Let's get over into Malachi Moore. Now, this guy they traded up for, Dom, that pick 130. Were they going to lose him?
Maybe. I mean, would it have been the biggest thing if you try to wait it out? But again, where were they? What did they trade? They traded a 6th rounder. They traded the pick we got from Kansas City.
Yeah.
For him. So 200 and something. So not the end of the world. If they and again, moves like that, I have no problem with. If especially in this draft, I said it the whole time. If you have a guy, if you like a guy, go get him. Right? So they gave up pick 207 or 204, whatever that was, to move up and secure Malachi Moore. Now, Malachi Moore, I think, has a chance to be a good ball player. We talked about what Wilkes needs in his safeties, right? He wants guys that are versatile. You want guys that are super, super high IQs that can be the captains of the defense. And that's exactly what Malachi Moore is. And it came out after the fact that, Aaron Glenn talked to Brian Branch a lot. And Brian Branch gave his seal of approval for Malachi Moore, who, in turn, took over for Brian Branch when Brian Branch left to play that star spot in Alabama, which is like the position to play on that Alabama defense, the most important position. Before that, he was he came in as a true free safety, played a little bit single high. Then they moved him to slot cornerback, and then he moved into that strong safety, that star role where he did a little bit of everything. But you talk about another long-term team captain, has over 40 starts on his belt. Another really good loose-hipped athlete, can kind of flip and run. Again, understands the game of football, understands how to play it, plays it the right way, diagnoses everything really, really at a really high level, takes good pursuit angles. Sounds stupid, but how many safeties have we watched over the past 4 years? I lost my train of thought. How many safeties did we have over the past 4 years that just take horrible angles,
totally.
right?
Yeah, and that includes one we kept, Tony Adams.
Yeah. And he does a good job of baiting quarterbacks, reading their eyes, baiting them into something and breaking on the ball, can click and close, physical. We talked about that leadership thing. He did have a little bit of a nagging back injury last year. Hopefully he's beyond that, but this is a guy that I think can come in and make some noise. Like, I could see him, whether or not it's from day one, but I can see him earning that starting spot next to Andre Sisco and being more of that versatile post safety that you don't have, that can come downhill and fit the run very well. A little slight, if you ask me. He's just a shade under 200 pounds. I think he needs to get a little bit more functional strength, get stronger and to really, withstand the ins and outs of playing NFL football. But really heady, high IQ, versatile player. I have no problem with Malachi Moore. Was he my favorite safety? No, he wasn't my favorite safety. But I don't think that this is I don't think it's bad value, and I don't think it's a bad selection.
Yeah, this is if I'm going to say it, this is my favorite pick of day 3, is Malachi Moore. So moving on to Francisco Mauigoa, the linebacker out of Miami. Thoughts on this fella?
Yeah, GreenBean, if I'm being honest with you, I really don't have much. I really don't have many thoughts on him because the linebacker class as a whole was very, very weak. I admittedly did not spend as much time or as in depth in the linebacker class. Really, just kind of at the top with a couple games sprinkled in from some of these deep guys. So I knew just about absolutely squadoosh about Mauigoa.
I'll tell you what, we could have got Miles Frazier, who was picked a couple picks after this.
Don't get me started. Don't get me started.
We don't want to do that to
you. Listen, we could have taken Chris Paul was still on the board.
Yep, Chris Paul. Right, exactly. So hopefully,
but he's a bigger guy. That's what I will take in my limited notes. Here's what I have about Mauigoa.
Well, he's 6'2", 233, Dom.
Yeah. So, and again,
you're taller, right?
235 pounds. What is Quincy Williams?
210? I don't even know.
Yeah, 210, 220. What's Jamien Sherwood?
Let me see. He's not that light.
What's Jamien Sherwood?
He's in the 230s. No, yeah. Well, let me see. No, they're not that light. Let me see here.
Yeah, but my limited notes is that he's a good mover.
Quincy Williams is 230, 229.
Okay.
Yeah, Sherwood I think he's in the same. I thought he put on a little bit of weight too. Well, he's 216, Sherwood.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So he's a little bit
Wow.
he's a little bit bigger than the linebackers that we have. Like him and Jamin Davis are really the bulk in the linebacker room. I know that Mauigoa was used a lot as a blitzer, something that you're going to see our linebackers do under this new regime that they didn't do with Jeff Ulbrich, is he's going to send the linebackers a lot, right? So if you got a guy that can move, that can play downhill, has a little bit more, sand in the ass, and can offer you something as a blitzer, maybe as a special teamer, I think that's what you get. For me, this is a pick. And again, I'm not going to sit here and wax poetic about Mauigoa because I can't. I didn't watch him to speak
Right.
as
All right.
as in depth about him. But to me, this is a pick like, all right, this is a guy that's going to push the Zaire Barneses of the world, right? Zaire Barnes, remember, was also a 5th round pick. And I like
Right.
Zaire Barnes, but he wasn't the pick of this regime, right? So
Nope.
now he's starting to flip some of the guys on the bottom, the bottom of the roster with more guys that fit his mold, fit his scheme, physical, a lot more physical than Zaire Barnes. Can probably play, can probably effectively, hang on special teams. He's going to replace the Sam Aguavins of the world. And now, you have 2 5th rounders, one last year and one this year, probably battling out for one roster spot.
All right. So now we got our last pick, Tyler Barron, the edge rusher out of Miami.
Mm-hmm.
What do you make of this fella?
I like Tyler Barron a lot, actually, as a matter of fact. I don't think this was a bad pick, especially for where we got him at 176. He's got the size. He's 6'5", 265 pounds. Really, really productive at Miami. He's fast. He's not like first step fast, but he tested out super, super athletically, ran a 4.6, a 36 and a half inch vert, all good numbers. But 2024, 46 pressures, 10 sacks, a 30% pass rush win rate on true pass sets. 2023, 41 pressures, 6 sacks, a 27% pass rush win rate on true pass sets. Physical enough that he can play 3 downs, although I don't think he's going to come in and be a 3-down player. But this at least gives you some more depth at the edge position, where it's something that was vitally needed, right? Because we know we got JJ, we know we got Will McDonald. JJ coming off that Achilles, and Will McDonald, I still don't know what his role on this defense is going to be. I still don't know it. It might just be designated pass rusher, right? So, then you got the Michael Clemens and the Eric Watts of the world who are nice players. Well, Eric Watts, I think, has the ability to be a nice player, but he's much more of an early down kind of edge setting, run stuffing edge setter on the edge than he is really go at and get the passer. This gives you, just a little bit more juice in the tank when you need to get at the passer. So Tyler Barron, I don't think is a bad pick. I think it's pretty good value. He's not a guy that probably, it'll take some time for him to, really earn the reps. Maybe he doesn't even suit up for some of the games early on, but he's a 6th round pick. You know what I mean?
Yeah. To those guys talking about, I see some in the chat talking about Kevin Winston, right? We all liked Kevin Winston. He went at pick 82, everybody. Yep. So that's in the, look,
they took Izzy Thomas over him.
Right. So there you go. So where we got Malachi Moore, it's a totally different thing. It's 80 picks later, 80 plus picks later. So it's a whole different thing. That's the thing. You can't get everybody, right? You just can't get everybody. If they had AZ Thomas, rated, a lot higher, that's just where it is, So Dom, I want to bring up the undrafted free agents real quick. Now, a couple interesting things I want to point out. Now, the Jets did not pick a kicker, Dom.
Yeah, but they got one.
But we did. So this is going to be one of those rare moments where I applaud you. Hold on. It's not on this list. So this looks like, is this our whole list? Wait a minute.
I don't know what you're looking at. I can't see it.
Hold on a second. Let me see where we are. Okay, here's the list. All right. Let me make it bigger for everybody. Come on, make it bigger, friends. Here we go. So, start out with quarterback Brady Cook. Let's be a little bit quicker here, but how are you feeling about Brady? Look, we didn't use a draft pick for a quarterback. I was hoping they didn't, and they didn't, which is nice. But then we come around the mountain with Brady Cook, who's not the worst prospect in the world. What are your thoughts on him? Did you push Jordan Travis off the practice squad?
Maybe. This guy's a gamer. You know what I mean? He comes to play. He's got solid. It's not ideal. He's got an NFL arm. Mechanically not the best. He's not like the most mechanically sound thrower of the football, but he can put some zip on it. He can get it there. He can use all levels of the field. He can throw, the intermediate and the deep route very good. To me, I think he's a really quick processor. Like, he understands his reads. He's able to get through his progression, so on and so forth. And the one thing I do like, there's actually two things that I do really like about Brady Cook. One is he's very, very safe with the ball. Like, he's not going to put the ball in harm's way. The second lowest turnover-worthy throws in all of college football in 2024. Yeah, so he does a great job of avoiding those negative plays. And he is really, really sneaky athletic, like almost dual threat-ish. Like, he can run. You think of guys like, I'm not comparing Brady Cook to him, but you think of Daniel Jones, right? You think of guys like Kyler Murray, like they're not dual threat quarterbacks, but that they can move, right? They can make something happen outside of the pocket. That's what Brady Cook is too. I think if he can kind of fit or fix some of those mechanical issues, he's also got a really, really long, extensive injury history that stems back into high school. I think that's why he really never came about to what he was, coming out of high school, where he was like, one of the top recruits in the country. He never the injuries just kind of took his toll. Yeah. So if you can get, a QB3 and eventually be a solid backup, just like I think of what Jordan Travis is, I think that's a home run as an undrafted free agent. Donovan Edwards.
He did have 66.1 completion percentage, 3,300 yards, 21 touchdowns in 2023. A little bit less last year, 2,500 yards, 62.6% completion, 11 touchdowns. So interesting. What about Donovan Edwards?
Donovan Edwards, I'm surprised he didn't get drafted, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
He was one of the heroes when Michigan won the national championship back in, 2023. He was really, really good. He's a home run threat, man. You put the ball in his hands. He's a big play waiting to happen. I think he's got like 11 plays of 50 plus yards in his storied college career. He's got quick feet. He's got stop and start ability. Very shifty. He's got really, really good hands ability as a route runner and as a catch passer. No, a catch as a. But he can fucking catch a ball.
Right, receiver. Yeah.
Holy shit.
Right.
Yeah. But
we're fried. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Not not a guy that you're gonna want to run like in the mud. In inside zone a lot. Like, that's just not his forte. He's gonna. He's the kind of guy that's gonna, you give him a crease on the outside, he's gonna plant his foot and get north and south and kind of break the big ones. To me, he's the kind of running back that would always, it looks like the Niners always get. You know how they seem to churn these late round running backs, before Christian McCaffrey, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, this guy, now he's the new stud and he's gonna run for 125 and 2 touchdowns a game. Like, he's got that kind of ability where he can just plant and go, man.
Yeah, nice.
So it gives you some depth. I think he's going to push Isaiah Davis. Is he going to push him off the roster? No, but I think that like this is the kind of guy. Again, Isaiah Davis wasn't the choice of this regime. It was the choice of the last regime.
Right.
Donovan Edwards can do
and
everything.
there's redundancy there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's redundancy with Isaiah Davis. So looking at this now, I want to talk about Mulba real quick, but I don't want to spend too much time like looking at the list. Who's got the best chance to stick around and all that stuff out of this? I'll show you the rest of the list too.
Yeah, I think obviously Edwards will be interesting just because I think he's probably the best player. The safety Dean Clark out of Fresno, I think, has a chance to play, has a chance to stick around. I definitely had a draftable grade on him. He was a day 3 guy. He's got a lot of versatility. He can play man coverage as good as a lot of cornerbacks in the league, in college football, I should say, not in the NFL. He's a little bit of an older prospect, 24, started at Kent State before going to Fresno. He played nickel there and before transfer, moving over to play safety with Fresno. But he's huge. He plays with a huge motor. He plays like his ass is on fire. And I think his footwork is really good. His top end speed, is fair. He runs 4.5. But he comes downhill. He hits like a ton of bricks. And like I said, he plays man coverage very well. He can match up on big slots. He can match up on small slots. He can match up on tight ends. Again, scheme fit is everything. And this is a scheme fit guy for Steve Wilkson and Aaron Glenn. I think he has probably the best chance to make the roster. The guy that I hope makes the roster, probably, my favorite undrafted free agent that they did take is the kid out of South Alabama, Jamal Pritchett.
Right. Okay.
Small guy, 5'8", 170 pounds. But man, he's fun to watch. Now, yes, he went to South Alabama, not a big school, but he did work for them. 1,200 yards, missed 36 missed forced tackles last year. Over 3.5 yards per route run, which is really, really good. He's got special teams abilities. I think that this guy is a player. He's a slot receiver, but he's a different type of. He's everything that we hoped. He's everything that we hoped that what's his face would be. Who's Xavier Gibson would be. Everything that we hoped Xavier Gibson would be, that's him. He reminds me a lot. He reminds me of an even faster, even quicker Braxton Berrios. Yeah.
Okay. Now I brought this up. Now, guys, we argued with for years now, really, but we really got heavy this year about taking a kicker with a 6th round pick. Dom said, no. You're going to get one in undrafted free agency. We said, there's no guarantee of that. You just, you use your pick. You guarantee getting an impact player in the 6th round and yada, yada. We didn't even end up having a 6th round pick. So there's that. But the Jets find Caden Davis in the undrafted free agent class. Now talk about this guy. So Dom, he gets his kicker, but obviously he's garbage. After all the other guys were gone, were the Jets, Dom. So there were kickers taken in the draft, right? We saw that. The Pats got one. Some other teams got one. And then we get to the undrafted free agents. The Fitzgeralds are gone. Everybody's gone. We get Caden Davis. He's garbage, right?
Yeah. So there's 3 kickers drafted. 3 kickers were drafted, right? Yep. Ben Sauls, the kid out of Pittsburgh, was drafted by Baltimore. I think
Borregales was
Carolina took Borregales, I believe. And then Tyler Loop, the kid from Arizona, was drafted. Those are the only 3 that were drafted. Now, Caden Davis, again, I don't scout kickers. I don't know. I just look at stats, right? That's all I can do with kickers. What are you going to do? 96.6% extra points last year. An 84.8% field goal percentage. He was 100% between 20 and 29. He was 80% between 30 and 39. He was 90% between 40 and 49. And he hit 50% of his field goals, 50-plus yards, which included 2 kicks of 57 yards or better. He also had 10 kicks of 40-plus yards last year. 1 was a game winner. So that's what I can tell you about Caden Davis. Looks like he's pretty reliable.
Pretty reliable. Maybe not the most reliable strong leg yet. So you gotta factor that in. But I've said it a million times. I would much rather feel like 50 and under, 90%, right? Like that kind of 95%. And I'll leave the long. Look, I love having guys who can do it all. But if I'm choosing one, the long leg, he's making you 58 yarders, but he's also missing 38 yarders. I'd much rather go with the short thing from 50 and under. If I have to choose, you know what I mean? So who knows? Maybe we'll see how he does. Zerline's leg, I don't know what they did to it offseason. Maybe they gave him a leg transplant. Greg, the brand new leg, we'll call him. Greg, the new leg. But anyway, the point was we did get one, Dom. So Hamza doesn't love him. He says he's okay. Just don't let him kick past 45 yards. So there's that. And Sodak checking in says next year we need scouting reports on kickers, Dom.
Yeah, you'll get them from someone, just not from me.
Not from Dom C.
That's for goddamn
He
sure.
refuses. He doesn't do it, guys.
Yeah.
It's just that simple.
Caden Davis did kick at the Senior Bowl, which is interesting. You know why?
Why?
Because every draft pick that the Jets had actually, I shouldn't say that. That's not true. Because Malachi Moore, who was supposed to be there, decided on the day of that he wasn't going to go. But every player that they took, and even some of them in like Caden Davis in Undrafted, were either at the Senior Bowl, the Shrine Bowl. So this regime leaned on those players very, very highly.
Huh.
Interesting, right?
There you go. All right. Well, Dom,
yes, sir.
There's our draft class, everybody. So that's what we got. We also got a few camp invites. The kid from Rutgers, the wide receiver from Rutgers, and some other fellas. They'll be invited to come and hang out with us for a little while. A la Wayne Corbett, right? These are the guys we go, no big deal. You just never know. Somebody's coming in like, bro, just get me in there. Give me a pair of cleats, coach. There's those guys. You never know when and where. But so we'll see. But overall, Dom, what's your letter grade for this draft?
I don't know, man.
You know what I mean? Just being what it is.
I would say probably a C.
Now, if we did this draft in the Monday Night Mock, it's exactly like the Jets, how bad do you think they would have treated us? Good, bad?
Our viewership would go from 333, where it's at right now, to about 13.
That's what, I'm telling you, our drafts are mwah. Whenever you guys are like, that fucking draft sucks, just wait to see what we really do. Yeah. But yeah, this draft would have got a C at best. From Gitmo Bob would have fucking speared us. You know what I mean? But anyway, I ended the poll. I said, what was your worst pick? In quotes, you're the worst pick in this draft for you. Aryan Smith with a resounding 64%. I think we're all in the same boat with that one. A reach on a player that has just lots of warts, man. Lots of warts. But he's got something. Here we go. You can't teach speed, Dom. Can't teach speed.
That's right.
And he's got that.
6'4", 225 pounds with 4.3 speed. That was your motto, right?
Can't teach that.
From Mimsy. So.
That's right. So Francisco Mauigoa, I got to get confirmation on that. That G is tough.
He has a brother. He has a brother who also plays at University of Miami, who's destined to be a top 10 pick next year.
Really? Oh, so that's
he will not be a Jet.
There you go.
He has a right tackle. If we take a right tackle in the top 10,
we got problems.
Then it's time to start cracking skulls.
We got problems if that's the case. So he came in second with 18%. AZ Thomas with 9%, and then Tyler Barron with 7%. Look, we got to get to know these guys, right? We got to get to know them, and we'll watch them in training camp, and we'll see how it goes, guys. I will say and I've said this many times. The most important part of the draft, like if you're gonna hit, if you're gonna hit, it's got to be those first 2 or 3 picks, right? Everything else, once you start getting into the 4th round, developmental, special teams, projects, all that kind of stuff, depth. That's where you're going, and you hope you can develop these guys into something. That's going to be on our coaching staff. You know, what did we really upgrade from the coaching staff that we had? Offensively, it's not going to be too hard to do. Knock on some friggin' wood here, because boy, oh boy, I can't stomach another one. But yeah, that's what we're dependent on. But if you look, we forget for many years, a first round pick, a top 10 pick, that didn't mean we were going to hit on them. You know, the Jets were uncannily good at taking the wrong player at 5. You know what I mean? Or what, at 21, whatever the hell it was in the first round. We had a long stretch, guys, of not even giving our first round pick second contracts. So that's where we came from. So I got to say, I feel pretty damn good. If I brought this draft down to a 3-round draft, I feel pretty good. I like that top end of the draft. You know what I mean? Like that's,
I think I would argue that day 1 to 3, or I mean, rounds 1 to 3 was an A, and rounds 4 through 7 was a D, and probably would have been an F if Malachi Moore wasn't there.
yeah.
And the majority of that is because I think the Aryan Smith selection was egregious for a couple of different reasons. Not because I think he's just a terrible player. I just think the reach and the value was not there, and the stuff that we lost by taking him there. You know, I can't speak. I mean, maybe Mauigoa comes in and he's, you know, the next Brian Urlacher. Who freaking knows?
Right.
You know?
Yep. You just never know. But, and you know, that's the thing. Like when we talk about this with this, it's all a grain of salt right now. We don't know. You know, we especially on the back end of the draft. So we just don't know. We'll see. But it was definitely fun. And Dom C, you were amazing this off season.
Man, thank you, buddy.
So thank you for all the time that you give. Not only here, you know, I appreciate the time here, but the time that you put in. So your time here is so incredibly valuable. Let's all give Dom C a round of applause. Throw some green hearts, red hearts, whatever hearts you want in the chat for Dom C, man. Let's give him some love. Drop those hearts in the chat for the great Dom C. And I want to thank everybody, all you guys in the chat as well. And don't forget Dom C's YouTube channel, Project Prospect with Dom C. The link's right in the top of the description, everybody. And he's very, very active on Twitter, DC_. New York Jets, or NY Jets, I should say.
Yes, sir.
And that link is in there as well. So go ahead and make sure, especially now, you've seen him. You see that it's real. He's putting in the work. Give him a little. All you got to do, that little click, boop, follow, boop, subscribe. Means the world, guys. And don't forget to do the same thing right here. I'm currently at 13,699. If we can get that one more, get me over to 13,700. That'd be real nice for this season.
It sure will.
Get me into that. Will. You know, that last little, you know, thing, little boost for this draft season. That'd be really great. Yeah. But guys, I thank you, and don't forget to hit the milk thumb. Give me those milk thumbs, buddy.
Before you close out, though, GreenBean. Before you close out, 2 things. One, I want to answer this question because this is a 10 o'clock mock, and we didn't talk about a 2026 mock.
Oh, that's right.
And
I can't pull it off. I got to run.
Yeah, we're not going to pull it off. But I do want to talk about the quarterback, right?
Yeah.
The name I want you guys to remember. Everyone's going to talk about Archman. Archman is probably not coming out. That's what it is. Cade Klubnik from Clemson is the guy that I think right now, if I had to on April 28th to say is my quarterback 1 in the class.
Who is it?
Cade Klubnik from Clemson.
Cade Klubnik. Oh, I like that name.
Yeah. Everyone's going to be on Lenora Sellers, who's a very, very good prospect himself. I'm not arguing with that. I just really, really think that the kid from Clemson is going to be really, really special. I got some good things lined up. I'm going to be a lot more active in a kind of like a preemptive 2026 draft class. I'm going to do a lot of summer scouting. My goal is, my draft guide, GreenBean. You've seen it the past couple years. I'm going to do something kind of different this year, very Jet specific for the Jets fans, and put out a draft guide for the Jets fans, our Jets version of the beast.
I love it.
Yeah.
That is exciting, everybody. That's going to be amazing. And once again, Dom, I thoroughly enjoy and appreciate your all your hard work, but Jay, really, most importantly, your presence. I enjoy you, buddy.
But it feels mutual.
Yeah, right on, man. We're in love, everybody. So with that said, we're going to get out of here a few minutes early this week. Dom's recuperating and from a sudden illness, man. Glad you're alive. Glad you're coming around the mountain. But I am also I'm destroyed. I'm shot. So guys, it was a great 10 o'clock mock season for this show. We'll see you next year, right around February. But this is the last one for this season, the 2025 season. This is it. We want to thank you guys for hanging out with us. I will see you tomorrow night for the Talking Jets panel on the Talking Jets Network, and our After Hours Jets Fest we'll do right here. With that all said, have a fantastic rest of your evening, everybody, and we will see you. Where I can never find it, Tom. There it is. We'll see you next time.
1, 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, rock. 5, 6, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock.
Johnny Lamb Jones. Wide receiver. As a season ticket holder of the Jets, I'm going to fool Ken O'Brien of California Davis.
Obviously, the Jets know something that, the people up there don't.
Fullback. Hello. Roger Vick. Jeff Lageman.
Jets just don't understand the draft all back.
Blair Thomas, running back, Penn State. Johnny Mitchell. The New York Jets select tight end from Penn State, Kyle Brady. Vernon Golson.
Cleveland traded the 5th pick to the New York Jets. And with the 5th pick in the 2009 NFL Draft, New York Jets select Mark Sanchez.
D.
Milner.
Smith. Jets select quarterback Christian Hackenberg.
Sam Darnold.
The New York Jets select Zach Wilson.
Future Pro Bowler, Elijah Moore.
Michael Carter, running back,